is a pleasure to have you back for a new edition of the news on DBS TV. Thanks for being with us. The ongoing Anglophone crisis continues to take its toll on the civil population. After Ngarbu, Menka, Muya, Boya and of recent the Kumba school massacre, Cameroonians were taken aback with the news of the kidnapping of 3 Bakwere chiefs and 1 in the northwest region by gunmen, as the death of 2 have been confirmed by some newspapers. For some time now, traditional rulers would appear to have been the target of these armed men. A few months back, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, convened a number of traditional rulers who had been taking refuge in nearby cities like Douala and Yaoundé, asking them to go back to their various chiefdoms and fondoms.
We are more than 34 chiefs from the southwest who are presently living in Yaoundé. The idea of going back to our chiefdoms is to enable us enter into contact with our children. They are our sons and daughters who have been sort of misled, misguided to take arms against their own brothers, fathers and sisters.
Given that their contribution in the then-to-be-announced regional council election would be necessary, it would have been good for them to go back. Certainly, something did not move as they thought, and they have been facing the unruly behavior of armed men from time to time. Bearing in mind that these are custodians of tradition, the concept to have them back was good itself.
They have been manipulated mostly by disgruntled and frustrated people who are in the diaspora, and we have resolved to go back to our various chiefdoms.
But every right-thinking person would have thought of reinforcing security for them.
How can we do to accompany our funds back to the northwest region? That's why you see all the members of government are here, the parliamentarians are here, the senators are here, so that we should brainstorm and listen to the funds and see at the end of the day what will be the report that we are sending to the Prime Minister and the government, what will be the report that we are sending to the head of state. So I wish that we should all be very sincere and put on the table the different challenges we have.
That would at least have encouraged some others who were still feet dragging. The recent incident over the weekend is just a pointer to the fact that security situation of the regions leaves much to be desired. The Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, the main opposition party in Cameroon, has just experienced a major loss as Celestin Jammeh, one of the frontline members of the party, has resigned this December 14, 2020. He announced his resignation during a press conference in Douala, where he also tabled down a number of complaints which sent him out. Amongst things, the political figure reproaches the party and its president, Professor Maurice Kamto, of is the boycott of elections, which he advised him of, but received a dead ear. In his words, a politics of abdication or resignation is not politics. Recall that Celestin Jammeh was first a member of the Social Democratic Front (SDF), from which he resigned before joining the CRM, and so, in his opinion, boycotting elections is not an option.
Que le SDF a pris une résolution que bad laws or good laws, we will ever go to election. Donc on ne boycottera plus. Le boycott, ce n'est pas une réponse.
He also blames the CRM party of placing more importance on the party and its ideologies rather than the welfare of the country as a whole. Douala, the economic capital of Cameroon, is known for heightened insecurity, one of the worst in the country. Street crime is common in most areas of the town, ranging from armed attacks, street violence to pickpocketing. Generally, This period from November through early January, as usual, has witnessed a drastic increase in street crime, theft and armed robberies. Often, thieves use knives or razor blades to cut valuables out of pockets, handbags, or to attack their victims. This is very common in crowded places like markets, particularly in this December festive period when streets and markets are overcrowded. A day hardly passes by in Douala without cases of theft or related violence being witnessed. These crimes often than not escalate to violence, especially when victims resist or fight back. Thieves routinely use motorcycles to conduct drive-by snatchings of purses and other valuables. Theft by intimidation or extortion is also a common tactic. In times like this, there is need for more vigilance like never before, so as to avoid falling prey to such criminals. In the West African country Ivory Coast, President Alassane Ouattara this Monday, December 14, has been sworn in for the third presidential term by the Constitutional Court of the country. The sober ceremony, with a maximum of 300 guests, took place at the presidency in Abidjan, in which several African heads of state and other representatives took part. In the course of this investiture, Alassane Ouattara took an oath on the Constitution and was handed the Great Necklace of Order. The head of state is sworn in an internal context of political deadlock, despite a relaxation that began on November 11 by a meeting which the leader of the PDCI, Henri Konan Bédié, the Ivorian president, invited the opposition to dialogue during his inauguration speech, promising a resumption of negotiations on the Electoral Commission in view of the legislative elections of the first quarter of 2021. He previously said he asked his Prime Minister Ahmed Bakayoko to resume discussions on the Independent Electoral Commission with the opposition, which boycotted the October 31 presidential election and still challenges its legitimacy. In Nigeria, hundreds of students are reported missing after gunmen attacked a secondary school in the country's northwestern Katsina state. According to police report, attackers on motorcycles stormed the all-boys government science school late on Friday and engaged security forces in a fierce gun battle, forcing hundreds of students to flee and hide in the surrounding forest. About 400 students are still missing, while 200 are accounted for, spokesman Gambo Issa said in a statement. Meantime, parents and family members on Sunday gathered at the school, issuing a plea to authorities to bring the missing boys back to safety. Defense Minister Major General Bashir Salihi Magash, who met Masari, the governor of Katsina, said the military will pursue the attackers and rescue the students without any collateral damage. Meantime, the hashtag #BringBackOurBoys has been trending on social media in Nigeria since Sunday as public outrage grew about an attack that initially saw 600 boys missing. In South Sudan, a unity government has been approved by President Salva Kiir during a meeting in Juba, where a full formation of a unity government was agreed upon. The meeting was attended by First Vice President Riek Machar, the other 4 vice presidents, the Presidential National Security Advisor, the Acting Minister of Presidential Affairs, and the Cabinet Minister. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the establishment of state and local government. Cabinet Affairs Minister Martin Elia Lumoro said in a press release. He added that after lengthy cordial deliberation, the meeting decided that the president appoints the state and local government of 9 states except the Upper Nile. The meeting also decided that the president will proceed with the establishment of the revitalized Transitional National Legislative Assembly and the Council of States. The unity government is to hold a national conference in Juba for all communities in Upper Nile State to discuss ways to end tribal differences in the state before the appointment of their governor. Also, the National Parliament and the Council of States will be reconstituted in accordance with the 2018 peace agreement. Thus, Parliament will increase from 400 to 550 members. It has the task to hold the government accountable for its policies, actions and spending, and it's responsible for operating alongside the new unity government until elections are held. Nearly 2 months after he was taken to Germany for treatment for COVID-19, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has made his first televised appearance. President Tebboune returns to the public eye for the first time on Sunday, nearly 2 months after he was flown to Germany for treatment after testing positive for the coronavirus. The 75-year-old, while speaking on state television, said, "Thanks to God, I have started on a new road to recovery." The day after the first anniversary of his election, "We will soon be in the country to continue building a new Algeria," Tebboune added. He did not indicate his location, but his Twitter feed indicated that he was outside Algeria. Tebboune was sent to an Algerian military hospital in mid-October after being transferred to Germany on a special flight later that month. His absence had sparked concerns of an institutional crisis weeks after voters approved a revised constitution on record low turnout in a referendum, widely seen as a maneuver to neutralize the long-running Iraq protest movement. Tebboune has been unable to sign the revised constitution into law because he must be on Algerian soil to do so. He also has until December 31 to sign off on a 2021 budget. He assured the citizens on Sunday that he was following developments in Algeria day by day, if not hour by hour, and noted progress in cutting the country's daily toll of coronavirus infections. Eswatini Prime Minister Ambrose Mamvulo Dlamini has died at the age of 52 after contracting COVID-19. The government of the Southern African Kingdom, in a statement, says Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini died on Sunday afternoon in a hospital in South Africa, 4 weeks after he tested positive for coronavirus, though no cause of death was mentioned. His Majesty has asked me to inform the nation of the sad and untimely death of the Prime Minister this afternoon while being treated in a hospital in South Africa, Deputy Prime Minister Themba Musuku said in a press release. He had announced on November 16 that he had tested positive for the coronavirus, adding that he was asymptomatic and feeling well. After being moved to South Africa, his deputy, Themba Musuku, said he was stable and responding well to treatment. He was then preparing to work from home until cleared by doctors. Ambrose Dlamini had been Prime Minister of Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, since October 2018. He had previously been bank director and then CEO of the Swazi branch of mobile phone giant MTN before succeeding Sibusiso Barnabas Dlamini, who had recently died of illness. The Kingdom of Eswatini, one of the last absolute monarchies in the world, has reported over 6,700 coronavirus cases and 127 deaths amongst its population of 1.2 million people. Out of Africa, European Union and Britain returns to the negotiating table on Monday, December 14, after agreeing to abandon a supposed make-or-break deadline for a post-Brexit trade pact. London and Brussels say they will continue negotiations, a sign of both parties' commitment to securing a deal before Britain exits the EU at the end of this month. At the same time, they are sending different messages, with the UK warning that they are still very far apart on key issues, and European negotiators saying that progress has been made. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen had earlier given negotiators a Sunday deadline to find a new way to resolve an impasse on agreements that would guarantee Britain a zero tariff and zero quota access to the EU single market. Reports suggested the two sides were exploring a potential deal on how to respond if their regulations diverge over time and threaten fair competition. Failing to reach an agreement could mean chaos for business, and there is no time to waste, as time waits for no one. As countries continue to impose a second lockdown to contain the spread of coronavirus infections, Germany is set to close most stores from December 16 until at least January 10, cutting short the busy Christmas shopping season as it tightens coronavirus restrictions and tries to rein in the spread of the disease, Chancellor Angela Merkel said. Only essential shops such as supermarkets and pharmacies, as well as banks, are to remain open as from Wednesday. Hair salons, beauty salons and tattoo parlors will also have to close. The government will support affected companies with a total of around 11 billion euros per month. Businesses that are forced to close may receive up to 90% of fixed costs, or up to 500,000 euros a month. Finance Minister Olaf Scholz said schools will be closed in principle, and employers also asked to close operations or have employees work from home. The sale of fireworks will be banned ahead of the New Year's Eve. Germany has been in partial lockdown for 6 weeks, with bars and restaurants closed while stores and schools have remained open. Some regions have already imposed tougher measures as infections grew. Private gatherings will remain limited to no more than 5 people from 2 households. For the Christmas holidays, the rule will be eased slightly so that families can celebrate together. And the mad rush for coronavirus vaccines has also placed the USA on a spotlight, as the first shipments of COVID-19 vaccine left on trucks and planes early on Sunday, kicking off a historic effort to stop a surging pandemic that is claiming more than 2,400 lives a day in the United States. The rollout of the Pfizer vaccine, the first to be approved by the Food and Drug Administration, ushers in the biggest vaccination effort in U.S. history, one that health officials hope the American public will embrace, even as some have voiced initial skepticism or worry. Shots are expected to be given to healthcare workers and nursing home residents beginning this Monday. They scanned the packages and then placed them into freezer cases with dry ice. The vaccines were then taken from Pfizer's Portage, Michigan facility to Gerald R. Ford International Airport in Grand Rapids, where the first cargo plane took off amid what airport officials called a jubilant mood. The coronavirus vaccine, developed by Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech, gained emergency use approval from the federal regulators late on Friday, clearing the way for distribution to begin merely 11 months after the United States documented its first case of COVID-19 infections. That marks the end of this week's first edition of the news. Thanks for trusting us to inform you. Stay with us till we come your way tomorrow, same time. Good night.